Hi everybody, so today we're going to be looking at the new part of the topic, and it's probably the main part actually. We're looking at upper and lower bounds. So we've done some revision on rounding and we've done some revision on inequalities, and that's what's key to this topic. To get your head around it and how it works is that you need to know how to round and you need to know how to use inequalities. So upper and lower bounds are when we're told a number and we have to figure out so it's already been rounded, okay, and you need to be able to say, well, it could have been these numbers or it could have been these numbers, okay. So if I was to show you an example, so let's say a number's been rounded to 40. Okay, if I was thinking about what numbers it could have been, well, it could have been 39, because 39 would round to 40 if we're rounding to the nearest 10. Yeah? It could have been 38. It could have been 37, 36, 35. Could it have been 34? No, because 34 would round down to 30. So what other numbers could there be? Well, we could go above 40, couldn't we? It could be 40 itself, I suppose. 41, 42, 43, 44 would all round to 40. Would 45? No, because 45 would round up to 50. So we've got, these are the bounds of 40 basically. And when we talk about upper and lower bounds, the upper bounds are the ones that are higher. So these would be my upper bounds, okay, and these would be my lower bounds. Now, the only thing is, it gets a little bit more complicated than that, okay? So we need to have a look in a little bit more detail about the upper bounds more than anything, okay? The lower bounds are nice and straightforward, okay? It's the upper bounds that we need to think about. So we're going to look at question 4, which is where it says that x equals 635 to the nearest unit, which means the nearest whole number. Okay, so we're going to have a look at what it could have been, what number it could have been before it got rounded. Okay, so I'm going to go down the number scale. And because it's rounded to the nearest unit, we're going to have some decimals in this one. So I'm actually going to write them out. So we're going to have, I'm going to turn my paper this way, 635.1, 635.2, 635.3, 635.4, 0.5, 0.6, and if I go the other way, I'm going to have 634.9, 634.8, 634.7, 0.6, 0.5, 0.4. Okay, so what is the lowest this number could have been before it rounded up? So if we look, it could have been this one, it could have been this one, it could have been this one, and this one. Okay, so, and yes, it would include this number, wouldn't it? It doesn't include this one because that would have gone to 634. Okay, so it just goes up to here. Okay, let's go the opposite way, which I said was the more tricky side. So yes, it could have been this. It could be this, it could be this, it could be this. Can it be 635.5? Well, no, it can't, can it? Because a 0.5 would round it up to the next number. So actually that would round to 636. But this isn't where it ends, okay? This is where it gets more complicated, because obviously there's lots of numbers that lie in between these two numbers here. So let's think about it. What numbers could lie in between here that would go, which would round to 635? Well, there are loads, but what we're looking at is numbers that are close to 635.5. Well, actually, you could have a number that goes in here, which is 635.49999999, and it could go on forever before it got to 635.5. Now, obviously, we don't want to have to list every single number that is included in this list because it would be never ending. So there is a little trick that we're allowed to do, which I'm going to just explain to you in a second. So we know that the cutoff point is very, very, very just before this number here. So the inequality, and this is why I've made it linked to what we've done so far, it's not going to include this 635.5, but it goes up to it. So if I was to draw this, you should know what this means from last lesson, okay? Because we looked at diagrams of inequalities, and we know that this includes it and this doesn't, but it includes all of the numbers in between it. So if I was to write that as an inequality now, I would be writing that 635, that's my number in the middle, is less than, but not equal to, 635.5, okay? But is greater than, okay? We've got this 634.5, but this time this side is equal to it, okay? So the number that it is, we just know that it lies in between those two, okay? So when you're doing these questions, you need to write down what they are in between. We're never going to write this number here. Okay, so when we're writing upper and lower bounds, we're allowed to say, well, the lower bound is 634.5 and the upper bound is 635.5. Okay, we are allowed to say that because they understand that it doesn't include that number, but it goes very, very close to it. Okay, I hope that makes sense. I'm going to go through a couple more with you just to make sure that you understand how to do this. Okay. So the first one, we've got 22.3 rounded to the nearest tenth. Okay, so if I imagine it, you can draw a number line out every time if you want to, if it's going to help. So I've got 22.3. So I've got to imagine what would have gone this way. Well, and think about how we did this. We added in the decimal, didn't we? So we're going to add in 100th. So we're going to have 22.29. 22.28. Well, what's the lowest it could have gone? Well, it would have been 22.25. Okay, so that's going to be our lower bound. And yes, it includes that one. So you can put your circle underneath and colour it in if it helps. And then we're going to go this way. So we're going to go above. We're going to have 22.31, 22.32, and so on. And then the highest it's going to get is this little bit in between, a little bit just before 22.35, which is 22.349999 forever. Okay, so we know that it goes up to this one, but doesn't include it. Okay, so there's our little diagram. And if I was to write it as an inequality, I would be writing the lower bound, which is 22.25. Okay, it includes that number. We've got 22.3 in the middle, and then it's up to 22.35. Okay, so that's what I need you to do on these questions. Okay, right, so this would be our lower bound, this would be our upper bound. Okay, so let's look at the next one. 5,230 to the nearest 10. Okay, so again, I can draw a number line out. I've got 5,230. So I'm going to come this way. It's going to be 5,229, 5,228, and so on. So my lower bound is going to be 5,225. Okay, the upper bound, okay, is going to be 5,235. So if you start noticing, okay, there is a little trick that can go with these, okay. It's always 5 units difference. It depends what units you're working with, but this one was hundredths, okay. So it's the next one along. So it says it's rounded to the nearest tenth, so we have to look at the next one down, which is hundredths. So it's 0.05 off, and it's plus 0.05 this way, Because this was to the nearest 10, we start looking at 1 down from it, which is units or ones, and we're going to take 5 away, and we add 5 that way. Okay, if we look at the one I did down here, we are rounding to the nearest unit, so that's why we looked at 1 decimal place, so tenths. So I took away 0.5 and I added 0.5, and that's what happens to the numbers. Okay, so that's a little trick that you can use, but if you don't understand, I want you to keep using this number scale. Okay, so our lower bound is this time is going to be 5,225. And then our upper bound is 5,235. And remember, it doesn't include that number. Okay, this one, I'm not going to draw out a number line. I'm just going to show you what it is. So it's rounded to the nearest hundredth. So I'm going to look at taking off thousandths, so 0.005. So I'm going to do, it's going to be 7.915. And then the upper bound would be 7.925. Okay, so I take away 0.005 and I add 0.005. Okay, the last one, 88,800 to the nearest 100. Okay, so I go 1 down from hundreds, which is tens. So I'm looking at 10, so I'm going to take 5 away. Okay. 50, sorry. So it's going to be 88,750. And then I add 50, so it's going to be 88,850. Okay. Have a go at the questions. The next slide shows you an example again of what I've kind of done. Okay. If you're not sure, let me know. But have a go.